What is music therapy? Mental health? How does it work? Don't worry, we're gonna talk all about it and have some real and fun conversations. You're listening to the Live Tune Talks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ivy, and I'm your host for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we are super excited to dive into a conversation about music therapy business from one of our pioneers from the music therapy field in Malaysia. So today's episode is going to be really, really interesting. And our guest for today has been practicing for more than 20 years. She established her own private practice in music therapy and have worked as a consultant with several organizations and schools that deals with special needs. So with that being said, please welcome Shoba. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Awesome. And Shoba, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and say hi to our listeners and tell us where are you calling us from today?
All right. So I currently live in Apex, North Carolina, and this has been my home for this would be the seventh year.
Wow.
I moved from KL, Malaysia, about 7 years ago with both my children. I got remarried and I moved here to be with my husband, and that was a significant move. So yeah, so that's the reason I'm here. And I'm practicing music therapy, and yeah.
Wow. And it's kind of crazy how technology works, right? Because I'm currently in Malaysia. It's 9:11 a.m., but you're now in Carolina where it's 9:11 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Correct.
Very cool. Thank you, technology, that we can do this and make this work. But yeah, Shoba, I'm so excited to, dive into our conversation today. Before we start with, our music therapy talk and all that good stuff, but tell us a fun fact about yourself that most people don't know.
Oh, the thing that comes into my mind
Yeah.
is that um, I have three children, but
Mm.
out of those three children, though the two are born 11 days apart.
Oh, sorry. I'm still like, how does that work? Oh, you
Mhm.
mean like they're born in like different years by 11 days apart?
Nope, they're the same age. They both just turned 14 in March, but they're only 11 days apart.
Oh, now that is a fun fact. I
Right.
don't think I've ever heard of that before.
So are you ready for this?
Yes, I am very.
So they are not twins. Well, they can't be twins. They were born 11 days apart.
Yeah, yeah.
So one is actually my stepson, and the other one is my daughter.
I see. I was like, how is it scientifically?
Right, exactly. So in general, when people ask, how many kids do you have? And I say three, or how old are they? And I say both are 14, they immediately go, oh, they're twins.
Yeah,
And then sometimes they actually see my kids and they can tell that, nope, they're not twins.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, that is a good one. That is a very good one. That is awesome. That's a fun way to, know about you. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, Shoba, after learning one of your fun facts, we would love to know, since this is a music therapy podcast, obviously we're going to talk about music therapy, but I'm always very curious, to know like why did someone actually choose the music therapy pathway. So maybe tell us a little bit, about, why did you choose music therapy as a career, and just walk us through your journey.
So um, I think it would be safe to say that a lot of us who grew up in Malaysia, our parents generally, um, you know, asked us if we would be interested in learning an instrument. And, the piano is generally an instrument that is suggested. And so I started taking piano lessons since I was 7. And, you sit for your board exams from London and all of that. And, it's just very, very conservative and structured. And it's kind of like an expectation, and you just go through it doing that without really trying to figure out, oh, am I going to make a career out of this? Why am I doing this? So I completed my grade 8 in practical and theory, and graduated from high school, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I had no idea. And my mother actually chanced upon a brochure from one of the colleges that talked about music therapy, and that was Sedaya College. And it was just a very brief description of what music therapy is. And she shared that with me, and I read it, and I went, it was like a light bulb just came on. And I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I didn't know anything about it except from that brief description. It was not a course that was offered in Sedaya at that time, but you were able to take your prerequisites and then transfer your subjects and things like that to the US. So that was the only option. So I went into it really without actually knowing what I was getting into, but there was this very strong gut in me that knew that was what I wanted to do. And I think the combination of using music and being able to work with people is what really attracted me to it. I also had a very strong inclination to work with children with special needs, because my dad used to volunteer in a home and all of that, and I was just fascinated at even the idea that you could use music to help perhaps a population like this. And so I dived into it, and it was only until I came to the US, because I only did 8 months in Sedaya, and I came to the US, and then, of course, I found out more about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm into this 100%. So I already knew, thankfully, that was what I wanted to do. And there was no turning back.
Wow, that is amazing. I love how it just all started with a brochure and it led you to here.
And I would say it was maybe less than 10 lines in that brochure with the description, but the description was so effective that it touched me in a very positive way, and inspired me, and that's all I needed. So
that's awesome. Wow. So correct me if I'm wrong, but so you did a foundation program or some sort at Sedaya, and then you transferred to a college in US.
In the US, it was Western Illinois University. So the bulk of the courses I had to take in the US. And that's how it happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so good. And I also noticed that you have a registered music therapist certification, and that is from the Australia, right?
No, that's from the US.
Oh, that's from the US.
Yes. So I did I graduated from WIU, which is Western Illinois University.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, you have to do your internship or clinical training. And I did that for 6 months in Madison, Wisconsin. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it's all from the US.
Oh, I see. Because I thought US is called MTBC. So I was a little confused about like was it RMT.
Well,
Yeah.
RMT was actually used when I was in college. So that
Ah,
the terms were different then.
right. I see, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Now that makes sense. I learned something new. That is awesome. And like in your own words, Shoba, I bet you have been asked about this question for probably a million times by now. But in your own words, what do you think music therapy is?
All right, good question. And you're right. People ask that a million times, and you kind of have to give different responses to different people to make sure they understand.
Mm-hmm.
So mine is not a textbook definition, but mine is just
Yeah.
based on my own experience working with
Mm.
people. And
Yeah.
I would simply say, if I may, that in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
music therapy is a therapeutic tool that uses music as its main medium to reach out to a variety of populations. And
Yeah.
these populations generally need um, help with some kind of balance in their lives, in their daily functioning. Um, they need to find fulfillment, enjoyment, and they need to explore their own potential. Um, More so because they have to face so many different challenges on a daily basis. And so music
Mm.
therapy combines the therapeutic aspects or goals that they require, and it also combines the element of music that is fun, enjoyable, and also therapeutic. And to me, that's how I see music therapy as. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Nice. That is a very wholesome definition if I were have to, describe it. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I think my next question would actually be very much intertwined with this question because like we've mentioned earlier, you have been practicing music therapy for more than 20 years. So I would really, I am actually really curious to know, like how's it like when you first started music therapy in Malaysia, having to, tell them what music therapy is, explain it 100 million times, what are some of the challenges and like, do people actually respond to you positively when you talk about that? Yeah.
Right. So basically, when I graduated, I made the decision to go back to Malaysia,
Mm-hmm.
knowing fully well that music therapy was not a known field. And also knowing fully well, I mean, like it was just so uncertain, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But I still look back and feel that I was very, very blessed. I went home and I had approached the Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation in PJ. And
Oh.
this at the time, there was just a wonderful lady who, I believe she was the director of the place. And she welcomed me with open arms. And she was so receptive to wanting to hear about what music therapy was and how it could help the children in the center, that I just didn't feel like it was a struggle to have to explain the benefits of music therapy. So
Mhm.
after our first meeting, it went so great and we hit it off. And she straight away said, would you like to come in and just, kind of see the kids and see what kind of program you can come up with. And she said, you know, we can't pay you much. We're not an organization that makes a lot of money, but I guarantee you that there will be parents who send their kids here who might actually want to send their kids privately to you. So I felt that was a good opening to try and introduce myself. And so I took up that opportunity, and I think I was going there maybe almost every day, I think, for a few hours. And I would do individual sessions with the kids. And very quickly, the parents were able to see the benefits of music therapy, and how, you know, their children enjoyed it. And they started to ask me, you know, do you do private instruction? You know, are we able to send our kids to you apart from, you know, them doing this during their school hours at the center? And that's really how I started my private practice in Malaysia. Yeah, so that was a great start for me. And like I said, till today, I'm very thankful for that. And word of mouth traveled pretty quickly, because, you know, a lot of families with children with special needs, they have different forums and different groups, and, you know, they exchange information. And yeah, that's really how I started off my private practice. So I started off with children with Down syndrome, and very quickly moved on to children in the spectrum and a variety of disabilities, because that's really what I specialized in when I was studying children with special needs. So yes, so again, I was thankful to be able to pick an internship with a population that I wanted to work with. And I was also blessed to be able to do that when I went back to Malaysia.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, and I think um it's always a hard thing to start something new, especially, you know, when you come back from the US. And then I'm sure there will be, like, you know, cultural differences. There are like some differences, you know, that you experience, you know, when you're in the US and coming back to Malaysia. But is there do you mind sharing with us, you know, what are some of the similarities or even differences that you have noticed, you know, practicing music therapy in both in Malaysia and in the US?
Well, you know, there are a lot of similarities, but at the same time, there are differences as well. And I want to say that just because there are differences in both cultures doesn't mean one is better than the other. You know, I grew up in an Asian culture, and so I know what it's like to have, you know, parental expectations of what you want from your children, you know. And so even if it's a child with special needs, when you're an Asian parent, I want to be very careful saying this, because like, you know, you have so much of hope for your child, and you want to find something in your child, especially when your child has challenges like this, to see what can he do, what can she achieve, or, you know. And so you tend to be more drawn to, oh, music therapy, is she going to learn how to play an instrument, you know, that kind of perspective. And I think in the American culture, or Western culture, is more of like, hey, my child loves music, I want him to have fun. You know, so the fun aspect of it, and the, ooh, how much is he going to learn? When can he start learning? You know, the expectations are very different. And when you approach parents and you understand that maybe that could be an expectation because of cultural differences, that's something important to keep in mind, because that's going to help you present yourself in a more balanced way, because you don't want to pass the message saying, no, that shouldn't be an expectation, because really both expectations are very valid and necessary for the child's well-being. You just have to strike a balance, fun, learning, and how you add in all those structured therapeutic elements in your sessions, and just trying to bring a balance for both. So that's how
That's awesome. And I think it's so good as well that, you have like tools that you have from different cultures that you can combine it together and just bring the best, give it the best for your clients. And that's really beautiful. Yeah. Shoba, I think so right now you're having your private music therapy practice in the US as well,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how is that going? How long have you been practicing there? And
So I've been practicing here. Well, I moved here, like I said, almost 7 years ago. And I decided to take a year off and not think of work or anything, because my main concern was to help my children settle in and, just take that year to find some kind of balance in life and, try and blend in and as much as we could. And, that was a priority. And then I think when I moved to the US from Malaysia, I had already been practicing for about 20 over years. And, I had a full load of clients, and, you professionally, I was starting to get a little burnt out, a little wiped out. And that's normal in any profession. And especially in this profession, it's a service-oriented profession where you're pretty much giving more than 100% of yourself on a daily basis. You don't realize that. And I needed to take a step away from music therapy and take a break away to really kind of see what I wanted to do. Did I want to do something different? Did I want to continue doing music therapy? I just had to really find some answers within myself and not just continue doing it because it was a job, And that's why I always was in private practice anyway, because it gave me a sense of fulfillment that I don't think I could have gotten if I worked under someone. It's just a very different dynamic. And so what I realized after a while, after living here, I was like, man, I really miss this. And that passion started to come back again. The sense of finding purpose, the sense of feeling fulfilled because you're helping someone, that started to come back. And that's when I knew, you know what, I need to get this going again. It was nerve-wracking because I had moved here. I didn't know anybody. Nobody knows me. I mean, back in Malaysia, I was already established. I didn't really have to go out and market myself, but here it's different. So I started off by advertising my services. And I had one client who came to me. And again, my journey in music therapy has been very blessed. Very quickly, word started to get around that I was doing this. People were happy with my services, and I just, it started to pick up quickly. And again, very, very blessed. So I have a good clientele here, and I've managed to establish good relationships with families. And it's been a very positive experience.
Wow, that's awesome. I think you are probably the one of the first few people that I've talked to about this, and like that you kept on saying that you are super blessed, and this has been such a positive, journey so far with like kicking off your private practice, because I know that a lot of people kind of struggle, to get the ball rolling and stuff like that. And so I think one of the things that I really see in you is that you are always super grateful, and so I think that is also the key to keep it going, and that
Mhm.
really inspired you to move on to the next thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
wow.
I also have a very supportive husband. So
Mm,
I remember it was New Year's Eve, and that's when I decided I was going to get back into music therapy.
yeah.
And I told him that, and the day after, he says, "Okay, let's go out and get the instruments that you need." So we were already in the car
Oh,
driving to the different stores to get instruments.
yeah.
We turned the whole room into a studio, and something that could accommodate clients. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, he also gives me that nudge and that push when I'm like terrified or
Oh,
scared. And it
yeah.
was nerve-wracking. It was like, how am
Yes.
I going to do this? I don't know anyone. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I have him to also thank for. And yeah, very, very blessed and very thankful.
Ah, that is so good. So, to everyone out there listening, if you want a successful music therapy career, get yourself a supportive husband. I'm kidding. Don't do that. I mean, yes, do that, but that's not the key to
Well,
it.
there's some truth in it. I think it's important to have a very supportive family. I think it's important to
Right.
have family members who believe in what you do.
Yeah.
And my children believe in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
They have firsthand knowledge of what I do. They see the clients I work with, and in their minds, it's like, this is what mommy does, and
Yeah.
this is what she's good at. And sometimes even when I feel like, and kind of pretty rough day, or something hasn't gone
Mm.
well, I get a lot of encouragement from my family. And I
Yeah.
also had very supportive parents when I was young. I mean, they
Mm.
were very supportive. They encouraged me to do this. Not many parents are going to encourage you to get into music therapy, because the first question
True.
is, how
Yeah.
much money are you going to make? You right?
Yeah.
um but yeah, so I've really had very supportive people in my life who
Mm.
believed that this was something important, not just for me, but for people who I serve out there or help out there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. I 100% agree. People, community support is super helpful and needed in doing anything. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so Shoba, thank you for sharing, your journey, your starting, how you have started your both private practices in two very different countries,
Right.
very far apart from each other. And so in your opinion, after so many years of practicing, what do you think, are the key factors that one should acquire, in order to thrive in their private practice?
All right, and this is just from my experience.
Mm-hmm.
When you decide that you want to go into private practice,
Yeah.
you have to be really ready to work hard. You have to be ready to put in more than 100%, because that's your baby.
Yeah.
So it's not just a question of investing money in your business, but you are
Mm,
investing yourself. You are putting your name out there. And so when it is your name that's out there, you're going to have to do everything you need to do to make that name shine. you
mm,
know what comes with that name, what are you providing with that name. So all those things are very, very important. You have to be committed.
mm,
You have a private practice, of course, you come up with your own hours, you
mm,
come up with your own model of business. You come up with your own strategy as to how you want to communicate with clients. And those are very important things to remember,
mhm,
because you want to be consistent with that. And as much as it sounds, oh, you have a private practice, you can pick your own hours, but it's a big commitment, because although you're your own boss, if you wake up one morning and don't feel like you're in the mood to work, you're going to have to think twice before you want to cancel, simply because there's a client who is excited to come for music. And so, you know what? It's not about the rough day you're having, it's about how you want to be able to get excited for this other person who's looking forward to coming to see you. So in my mind, that's a big commitment. You know, you can't just say, I'm sorry, we have to cancel, can we reschedule? You know. And the other thing is, I would say, you have to decide how and what kind of relationship you want to have with the parents of your clients. Because you're not just establishing a relationship with your client, but you are also, it's a continued relationship with the client's parents and extended family, like grandparents, siblings. Now, when you have that kind of relationship and trust and bond, it's almost like your second family, because these are people who trust you to bring out the best in their kids. So just like you want to know that you can bring out the best in your own children, it's the same when you're working with someone else's child. So that level of commitment has to be there. And you almost have to walk in their shoes every day to understand what they go through as parents and what they go through as children. So,
Wow, those are really good advice. What I'm hearing is that, you know, one of the biggest difference between private practice and working for someone is that you really need to have that self-motivation. And
yes.
so no self-motivation is like bye.
Right. Because it's almost like, you know, when you get ready for your day and you know you have 6 clients coming to see you, it's almost like you're a performer and you have to perform, whether it's in front of the parents or in front of the client. You just have to like kind of put on a different pair of shoes, put on a different face, and just go all out. And it's, again, it's not about you, it's about the client and how you continue to establish that relationship and trust, which is very, very.
Wow, that is so good. What are maybe some of the top few things that you have learned, from starting your own private practice? Yeah, just, some of the one or two things that you have learned along the way. This would really help. I feel like, if there are like some music therapists out there who are currently listening that are thinking about, starting private practice and yeah.
I mean, a few things, of course, would be the things that I mentioned earlier on. But also, I would say you have to be very passionate towards the population that you're going to work with. Now, we all know that we're trained to work with so many different clienteles, but the reality is each of us have a unique gift where we know that we're very passionate towards a certain type of population, whether it's geriatrics, whether it's children with special needs. So you have to find that in yourself before you say, okay, I'm going to go into private practice, because you have to figure out, am I just going to advertise myself and say, I'm a music therapist, I work with everybody? No, that's not true. That's not reality. We're good at what we do, but we shine more when we are passionate about a particular population, client population that we know that we want to work with and want to help. So be true to yourself and be honest with yourself as to who you really want to work with. Not because you want to get that big fat check at the end of the month, because you're working with so many different people, and so that's something to really, really think about.
Wow, that's really good. I resonate that with so much with that what you have said with myself too. And I really like what you said about, like everybody has a gift, that, to what you're really passionate about, that your personality, your gifts, whatever that is that really would suit a particular population. And yeah, that is one really good advice. Yeah, that is so good. Yeah, so this is one of my really favorite parts of my podcast where I would invite my guests to um, share one maybe one patient story that really have impacted you as a music therapist. You have probably so many stories to just pick from, but yeah, maybe just share one story that has really impacted you, have touched you, that until today that you like, oh, that session is good.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a hard one because, like you said, there's so many stories. And it's so
Too
hard to
many.
pick one. But I think one that always resonates with me is, one of the goals that I always work with a lot of my clients in music therapy is to build their self-esteem and self-confidence. These children have so much of potential in them. They don't know it yet. And it's a journey of discovery for them. And as they get to know what their potential is, they start having a sense of pride and awareness of what they can do. And it's so important to make them actually believe and see that every little step that they take is something that I'm proud of, or the person working with them is proud of. So the one phrase that I always like to use with my clients is, at the end of every task, if I see that they feel good about themselves and they're happy, whether they're verbal or non-verbal, I make them say, I did it, like in a very excitable way. And I always make sure to say, I'm so proud of you, And in fact, last Tuesday, I had a class, and when I was walking the boy out, the mom said, every Monday night he goes to bed, and before he closes his eyes, he says, I know I can do it in Miss Shoba's house. And he kind of preps himself that way. And she also shared with me that socially, he's always found it hard to play with other kids because he doesn't know how to play with other kids. But lately, when he tries to play with other kids, his new thing to say is, I'm so proud of you. Good job. I'm so proud of you. So that has sort of bridged the gap between him and the other children, because they're like, whoa, and they enjoy listening to him say that. They get some kind of validation, and that makes them want to play with him. So yeah, just a story of self-confidence and understanding your self-worth and what you can do. That seems to be the same theme that resonates a lot with a lot of my clients that their family shares with me. And so, yeah, that would be that one story.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that really touched my heart. Yeah, that is really so good. Like I really feel that because what you have instilled in your client actually really is impacting not only himself, but he's also bringing that whatever you have instilled in him to other people, like his friends, like so proud of you, and saying that to his friends, and probably the friend
Right.
will be like, huh, what? like, like culture shock or something. But I think that is so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that and all that you do as a music therapist. So thank you for, all that you've done for all your clients. I'm sure that you have been such an inspiration to so many along this journey.
I hope so. That's the intent.
I believe you are. Yes, and will be impacting even so many more lives. But yeah, Shoba. So what is one advice I think what that you would like to give to anyone that is interested in starting their private practice. It could be like a resource that or an article or anything or advice that you have heard from somebody else, or yeah, just anything. I know that you briefly mentioned that before we talk about it, but is there any last advice that you want to
I
give?
don't know if I would call it advice, and I don't
Hmm.
have any particular books or resources that I would say, no, you have to read that book, or,
Yeah.
Um, I go back to strongly feeling that if you're passionate about working with a particular population,
Yeah.
geriatrics, for example, I would say watch movies or read books or read, things like that have that theme where you can actually visually see um, how people communicate, what people struggle with. Um, that's like that's so important to me, because you are going to
Mm,
be working with someone else and you're trying to find insight as to how you can better help that person.
mm,
And a lot of times, I mean, textbooks teach us a lot of techniques and a lot of methods. Um, but I don't know, when I work, there's a lot of emotion involved. There's a lot of
mm,
empathy involved. Like, hey, how
yeah.
do I put myself in that person's shoes? What is that person
Mm,
thinking right now? What is that person feeling right now? And that's something books can't really teach you.
mm-hmm,
So I
yeah.
would say watch a lot of movies, watch a lot of shows. I'm a movie
Mm,
show person, and
mm,
read biographies or read books about people who go through different challenges, whether they're in the spectrum, adults who are in the spectrum, and it helps you understand how someone else's mind works, what their perspective on things is, because it really gives you a window to the other side. Again,
mm,
when you're doing music therapy, you're doing private practice,
yeah.
you're building relationships with people, you're building
Mm,
relationships with families.
yeah.
It's an ongoing journey. You're learning how people think differently from you, how people behave uniquely from you.
Mm-hmm,
Um, so that's something very important to think about. And again, it's not about you, it's about the person you're working with.
wow, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Um, yeah, that's awesome. So before we end, Shoba, I would like to ask if there's one tune or song that you could describe your career in music therapy, what would that be?
I would say, if you're familiar with the artist Yuna and her song Rescue, so she's a Malaysian artist, but I believe she's based in the US. And
Yeah.
she has an English song titled Rescue. That
Ah,
song just has a lot of, I don't know, a lot of meaning to
mm-hmm,
me. Sometimes you feel like you're drowning, and then you feel
mm,
like, oh, I'm up again. I can
yeah.
breathe again. it's a song with a lot of hope.
Wow.
Yet it also talks about some pain, and
Mm,
I believe it's just not my music therapy journey, but my journey in life in
mm,
general.
yeah.
And I think at the end of the song, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, she also talks about being blessed, feeling
Mm,
thankful.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, that song described my journey, I think.
Oh, nice. I actually have never heard of that song, but I would love to check out that song. Awesome. So, Shoba, last but not least, where can our listeners connect with you online? Do you have an email or social media or website that people can learn more
Yeah,
about?
I do have a website.
Yeah.
It's just go to Google and type Shoba's Music Therapy Services, and it
Yeah.
should come up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a brief description of what I do. There's
Yeah.
also a video that I put up. Couldn't do it last year because of the pandemic, but it was the year
Ah.
before that. So it was an end of the year video with shots, compilations of the different kids that I work with. And they
Oh.
are in the session playing different instruments individually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my husband helped me put that together.
Yeah.
He's the one who composed the music for it. And yeah,
Nice.
if anybody's interested, take a look. It's on the
Yeah.
website. Yeah. So you can email
Awesome.
me. My email address is there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know answers for everything, but I'll try.
Yeah. And also, if you're looking for a music therapist in North Carolina, Shoba is the one for you. Email her, schedule a session, and you will not regret it. Awesome. But I'll also link all the details that you have mentioned in the description box below. So, if you'd like to connect with Shoba, you can definitely do so there. Awesome. So, if you find this episode helpful at all, feel free to share this with your friends and family, or even comment down below and share with us, what is your takeaway from this? And we would love to hear from you. And if you'd like to learn more about Life Tunes and what we do, feel free to connect with us at our social media at Life Tunes Music Therapy, and we would love to chat with you. Once again, thank you so, so much, Shoba, for joining us on this episode, especially, all the way from the US, with time difference and everything. I really, really appreciate it. This episode has been such a beautiful one, and it has really touched my heart in a deep way. So thank you so
Thank you,
much for
Ivy. Thank
sharing.
you for inviting me. Thank you.
Oh, my honor. Thank you so much. So, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.